Following a decade and a half at Tech Vantage, Marjorie Thompson informed Kira that the company would be reorganizing her role. Satisfaction was barely hidden in Marjorie's voice as she sat opposite me in the compact meeting room, with Denise from HR beside her, both displaying carefully prepared expressions of corporate sympathy. The organization is heading in a different direction, Denise contributed, pushing a manila envelope toward me across the table. While your work has been appreciated, we're merging the research department with our product development group. I gave a thoughtful nod, taking the folder without examining its contents. The standard severance terms would be inside 14 days pay for each year worked, healthcare benefits extending 3 months, plus a roster of job placement services I'd never utilize. I have complete understanding, I responded, my tone remaining calm. Such choices are always difficult. Their faces showed clear relief. They had obviously prepared for emotional outbursts, objections, or fury. They saw a 55-year-old woman being forced from a tech field that valued youth over wisdom. What remained hidden from them was my anticipation of this event for several weeks, ever since a wrongly delivered email chain had reached my inbox the previous month. We need your workspace cleared by Friday, Marjorie went on, growing more confident from my seeming cooperation. Before departure, we'll require your access card, work laptop, and mobile device. This afternoon, your team will receive notification. My team consisted of 6 gifted engineers whom I had personally found and guided through the years. These same individuals had assisted me in creating the distributed processing algorithm that currently drives Tech Vantage's primary product AccountSphere accounting software, utilized by more than 40% of Fortune 500 corporations. Certainly, I stated, standing from my seat. Is there anything additional? They looked at each other, obviously surprised by my calm demeanor. Marjorie was first to recover. That concludes our discussion. We appreciate your professional handling of this situation. Walking back to my workspace, I passed the glass-enclosed conference room where executives were gathered. Through the clear barrier, I observed CEO Victor Lawson making animated gestures toward a PowerPoint titled, Q3 Revenue Projections, the same Victor Lawson who had claimed ownership of my algorithm at the previous year's industry conference, mentioning me merely as one of our research team members. I shut my office door and retrieved my personal mobile device, sending one text message. It's happening. Friday marks my final day. The reply arrived instantly. Perfect timing. Contracts are prepared. Dinner tonight to conclude arrangements. I smiled while examining my desk calendar. Wednesday was today. Friday would mark my last departure from Tech Vantage, and Monday through Monday would prove fascinating. That evening, I met Gregory Sullivan at Meridian, an upscale dining establishment distant from Tech Vantage's offices. As CEO of Precision Systems, Tech Vantage's primary competitor, Greg understood the importance of confidentiality. He had secured a private dining alcove in the rear, protected from prying eyes by elegant Japanese screens. They actually went through with it, Greg said, shaking his head after we placed our orders. I suspected they might, but dismissing the very individual who created their fundamental technology. Victor never grasped what I truly developed, I replied, sipping my water. He saw the implementation, the user interface, the marketing possibilities, but the foundational architecture, that was merely technical details to him. The irony was almost too exquisite. 3 months prior, I discovered that Tech Vantage's legal department had never submitted the patent application for my distributed processing algorithm. They called it an oversight when I inquired, assuring me they would address it promptly. However, something about their response seemed suspicious, leading me to examine the company's internal records. That's where I found it, a strategy document detailing plans to claim the algorithm as company-developed technology without specific inventor credit. They intended to remove me before securing the patent, knowing that intellectual property created by employees generally belongs to the employer. What Tech Vantage was unaware of was that I had already been developing improvements to the algorithm during my personal time using my own equipment. These enhancements, which increased processing efficiency by 43%, weren't included in my employment contract. I had quietly submitted for a patent under my own name the previous month, fully documented with timestamps and development records clearly showing the work was completed outside company hours. The patent had been approved with exceptional speed, thanks to Greg's connection to a premier IP attorney. All documentation is complete, Greg said, sliding a folder across the table. Once you sign, Precision Systems officially obtains exclusive licensing rights to your patent. The press announcement will be released Monday morning, naming you as our new Chief Innovation Officer. I examined the documents thoroughly, though I had already committed the essential terms to memory. A 7-figure signing bonus, significant equity in Precision Systems, and ongoing royalties from all products utilizing my algorithm. What do you imagine Victor's expression will be when he discovers what occurred? Greg asked, unable to conceal his satisfaction at the possibility. I'm more worried about my team, I confessed. They don't deserve to be caught in this situation. Greg nodded. Already handled. We have positions available for all 6 if they're interested, senior roles with substantial salary increases. I signed the final page and closed the folder. In one sophisticated maneuver, I had secured my future, protected my team, and earned recognition for my work. To new beginnings, Greg said, lifting his glass. And to recognizing your own worth, I added, touching my glass to his. Thursday and Friday flew by with exit interviews, knowledge transfer sessions, and farewells to colleagues. I maintained professional composure throughout, even as speculation circulated through the company. Administrative staff offered sympathetic looks in the corridors. Junior developers approached hesitantly, requesting LinkedIn endorsements before my departure. I documented everything thoroughly, every project, every password, every procedure, knowing Tech Vantage would soon realize how essential they considered me to be. My choice to leave comprehensive transition notes wasn't kindness. It was documentation. Documentation that I had acted honorably while the company had not. During my final exit interview Friday afternoon, Denise from HR reviewed the standard checklist with mechanical precision. You understand that any intellectual property created during your employment remains Tech Vantage's property, she declared, pushing a non-disclosure agreement across the table. Naturally, I replied pleasantly. Anything created within my employment scope using company resources during company hours. I emphasized those qualifiers slightly, but Denise was too focused on checking boxes to notice. And you confirm you have no copies of proprietary company information? I have taken nothing belonging to Tech Vantage, I confirmed truthfully. The patent was mine after all. As I packed personal items from my desk, family photographs, a collection of conference badges marking 15 years of industry events, the coffee mug my team had given me last Christmas, Marjorie appeared, leaning against my doorframe with artificial casualness. I just wanted to verify that everything's arranged for your departure, she said, watching me place items into a cardboard box. Crystal clear, I replied, wrapping a small award I'd received for the very algorithm now central to my plans. The irony wasn't lost on me as I carefully positioned it between tissue paper layers. You know, Kira, these restructuring choices are never personal, Marjorie continued. Victor believes the company needs to move toward a more youthful direction. I looked up, meeting her gaze directly. I understand completely. Business is business. Something in my tone made her hesitate briefly. Uncertainty flickered across her face, but she quickly dismissed it. What could a soon-to-be unemployed 55-year-old woman possibly accomplish? Will you be taking some time off? She asked, with an artificial note of concern. Actually, I already have something arranged, I replied. I begin Monday. Oh. Surprise crossed her features. That's quick. Anything interesting? I smiled. Very. A leadership role I'm quite excited about. She nodded absently, already mentally moving to other matters. Well, best of luck with that. As I walked out of Tech Vantage's glass headquarters for the final time, keycard surrendered and personal belongings in hand, I paused to look back at the building where I'd spent 15 years of my career. On the top floor, I could see the executive conference room illuminated for an evening meeting, likely discussing how to redistribute my responsibilities among younger, less experienced, and significantly less expensive personnel. Little did they realize that in fewer than 72 hours, that same room would be hosting an emergency crisis meeting instead. Monday morning arrived bright and clear. I dressed carefully in my new charcoal suit, a power outfit purchased specifically for this day. The Precision Systems town car arrived exactly at 7:30 a.m. to transport me to their headquarters, where I'd begin my first day as Chief Innovation Officer. The press release went live at 7 a.m. Greg informed me as I settled into my new corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows. Industry newsletters are already covering it. I have the communications team monitoring reactions. The announcement had been crafted with strategic precision. Precision Systems acquires exclusive rights to revolutionary processing algorithm, welcomes creator Dr. Kira Jennings as Chief Innovation Officer. It detailed my background, emphasized my role as the sole inventor of the patented technology, and outlined how Precision Systems would integrate the algorithm into their next generation of products. Most importantly, it clearly stated that any company currently using the technology would need to negotiate licensing agreements with Precision Systems moving forward. At precisely 9:15 a.m., my phone lit up with the first text from my former team at Tech Vantage. Complete chaos here. What did you do? It was from Miguel, my lead developer. I smiled, typing back, check your personal email. All 6 of you have offers waiting. Meanwhile, 8 miles away at Tech Vantage headquarters, the scheduled Monday morning executive meeting was undergoing a dramatic transformation. According to Miguel's play-by-play updates throughout the morning, Victor had arrived at the office to find the company's general counsel and chief financial officer waiting at his door, both ashen-faced. The industry announcement had hit their inboxes simultaneously, setting off immediate alarms. By 9:30 a.m., what should have been a routine start-of-week meeting had transformed into an emergency crisis session. Board members were calling in remotely, the legal team was frantically reviewing my employment contract, and the documentation around the algorithm's development. They're pulling every file with your name on it, Miguel reported. Someone just wheeled in all the servers from the research division for the tech team to analyze. I could picture the scene perfectly. Victor pacing the conference room, demanding explanations from Marjorie and the legal department. The stock would already be responding to the news. Investors despised uncertainty, and the announcement had created plenty of it. At 10:45 a.m., I received an email from Victor himself, desperation practically emanating from my screen. Kira, there appears to be a misunderstanding. Please call me at your earliest convenience to discuss. I forwarded it to Precision Systems' legal team without responding. By noon, the industry was buzzing with speculation. Tech Vantage's stock had dropped 7% since the market opened, while Precision Systems had seen a 12% increase. 3 different technology journals had requested interviews with me about the strategic coup that had shaken the accounting software industry. How are you feeling? Greg asked, stopping by my office as I settled in. Validated, I replied honestly. 15 years of watching others take credit for my work, of being told I should be grateful just to have a seat at the table, and now, finally, recognition. My new executive assistant appeared at the door. Dr. Jennings, the development team is ready for you in the main conference room. She hesitated. Also, Tech Vantage's CEO has called 4 times in the last hour. Please let him know I'm in meetings all day, I replied calmly. I'll have our legal team reach out to discuss licensing options later this week. As I walked toward my first meeting as Chief Innovation Officer, my phone buzzed with another update from Miguel. Board just called emergency session. Victor looks like he's about to explode. Piss, my team and I accept your offer. When can we start? By Tuesday morning, the full impact of my departure had become clear to everyone at Tech Vantage. Their flagship product, AccountSphere, relied entirely on my algorithm to process the massive datasets that gave it an edge over competitors. Without licensing rights to my patent, they faced 2 equally unpalatable options: negotiate with Precision Systems or rebuild their core technology from scratch, a process that would take years and millions in development costs. Victor has called an all-hands meeting for 2 p.m., Miguel texted. It was his last day at Tech Vantage. He and the rest of my former team would be starting at Precision Systems next Monday. Rumor is they're going to try to sue you. I forwarded his message to our legal department, who responded almost immediately, let them try. Your documentation is impeccable, development logs, timestamps, personal equipment usage, all clearly established. We've prepared for this scenario. Meanwhile, I was settling into my new role with remarkable ease. The respect I received at Precision Systems was a stark contrast to my final years at Tech Vantage. When I spoke in meetings, people actually listened. My ideas weren't repackaged by male colleagues and presented as their own. My age and experience were viewed as assets rather than liabilities. The engineering team is implementing your efficiency improvements, Greg informed me during our afternoon briefing. Early testing shows a 51% performance boost, even better than we projected. I had several refinements I never shared with Tech Vantage, I admitted. After I discovered they were planning to eliminate my position, I saw no reason to give them my best work. Their loss, our gain, Greg replied with a satisfied smile. Speaking of which, the first licensing inquiry came in this morning. Not from Tech Vantage yet, they're still in denial, but from Data Flow Systems. They're worried about being caught in the crossfire. At 3:30 p.m., Miguel sent a detailed account of Victor's all-hands meeting. The CEO had tried to project confidence, assuring the staff that Tech Vantage would vigorously defend our proprietary technology, but the anxiety in the room had been palpable. Several employees had already updated their LinkedIn profiles, sensing the company's vulnerability. Marjorie looked like she was about to faint when someone asked directly if they'd failed to secure the patent, Miguel reported. Victor cut the question period short after that. By Wednesday, the industry fallout had intensified. 2 major clients had contacted Precision Systems about switching from AccountSphere, concerned about Tech Vantage's ability to maintain the product without the algorithm's creator. Our stock had risen another 8%, while Tech Vantage's continued its decline. I received a call from Denise in H, the same woman who had slid my severance package across the table just days earlier. Kira, she began, her voice carefully professional, I'm calling to discuss the, situation with your patent. We believe there may have been a misunderstanding about ownership rights. I don't think there's any misunderstanding, I replied calmly. My employment agreement clearly states that intellectual property developed on my own time using my own resources remains mine. The patent documentation confirms exactly that. Victor was hoping you might consider coming in to discuss options. Any discussions would need to go through Precision Systems' legal department now, I responded. I'm sure they'd be happy to set up a meeting to discuss licensing terms. The silence on the other end spoke volumes. Finally, Denise sighed. I'll pass that along. That afternoon, I led my first formal presentation to Precision Systems' board of directors, outlining our technology roadmap with my algorithm at its center. As I stood confidently at the head of the table, not hidden in the back as I had been at Tech Vantage, I caught Greg's approving nod. By Friday, just 1 week after I had walked out of Tech Vantage for the last time, the company had entered full crisis mode. Their stock had fallen 23% from Monday's opening bell, triggering concerned calls from major investors. Industry analysts were publishing speculative pieces with titles like, Can Tech Vantage survive the algorithm crisis? And how one strategic blunder may cost a tech giant everything. Through my industry contacts, I learned that Victor had finally acknowledged the severity of the situation to the board. Tech Vantage would need to either license my algorithm from Precision Systems, likely at exorbitant rates that would devastate their profit margins, or undertake a complete rebuild of AccountSphere without using any technology covered by my patent. They've started interviewing for a new development team, Miguel informed me during our Friday video call, where we discussed his upcoming transition to Precision Systems. Victor's claiming they can recreate the functionality in 6 months. I couldn't help but laugh. The original algorithm took me 3 years to perfect, and that was with intimate knowledge of the problem space. Exactly, Miguel agreed. Nobody's believing the timeline, especially after your team posted their resignation letters simultaneously. The knowledge drain is massive. That afternoon, Tech Vantage's attorneys finally reached out to Precision Systems to open a dialogue about potential licensing arrangements. Our legal team, following the strategy we had developed, responded with terms that were technically fair but strategically painful. 3 times the standard industry licensing rate, plus a public acknowledgement of my role as the technology inventor. They'll balk at the acknowledgement more than the cost, Greg predicted as we reviewed the response in his office. Victor's ego won't allow him to admit he pushed out the person who created their core technology. Then they'll have to rebuild, I replied. And every day they spend trying to replicate my work is another day we extend our lead in the market. The following Monday morning, 10 days after my unceremonious dismissal, I led the first meeting with my newly assembled innovation team, which included Miguel and the other 5 engineers from Tech Vantage. The energy in the room was electric as we mapped out the next evolution of my algorithm. "This is how development meetings should be," commented AITA, one of my former team members. At Tech Vantage, we spent half our time explaining basic concepts to executives who wouldn't listen anyway. "That's the difference between being valued and being seen as replaceable," I replied. "Here, your expertise is recognized." As we wrapped up the productive session, my assistant appeared at the door. "Dr. Jennings, there's been a significant development with Tech Vantage. Their board just announced an emergency leadership change. Victor Lawson is stepping down effective immediately." The news spread quickly. Within hours, industry publications were reporting that Tech Vantage's board had lost confidence in Victor's leadership following the patent oversight that threatened the company's flagship product. Marjorie Thompson was also out, along with the head of legal who had failed to properly secure the patent. That evening, I received an unexpected email from Richard Donovan, Tech Vantage's newly appointed interim CEO. Unlike Victor's desperate message from the previous week, this one was straightforward and respectful. "Dr. Jennings, congratulations on your new position. I've been brought in to help Tech Vantage navigate the current situation. I'd like to discuss a fair licensing arrangement for your patented technology. We're prepared to acknowledge your contributions publicly and make appropriate amends for the oversights of previous management. Would you be available to meet next week?" I forwarded the email to Greg, adding a simple note: "Phase 1 complete." His reply came quickly: "Beautifully executed. The board is celebrating your first major victory for Precision Systems. Looks like Tech Vantage is finally learning an expensive lesson about valuing innovation and innovators." 3 months after my departure from Tech Vantage, I sat on the stage at the National Technology Innovation Conference, preparing to deliver the keynote address. The audience was filled with industry leaders, technology journalists, and aspiring developers, many of whom now knew my story. "And now, I'm pleased to introduce our keynote speaker," the conference organizer announced. "Dr. Kira Jennings, Chief Innovation Officer at Precision Systems and creator of the distributed processing algorithm that has revolutionized data handling across multiple industries." The applause was substantial as I approached the podium. What a difference a few months could make. Last year, I had attended this same conference as part of the Tech Vantage delegation, seated in the back while Victor gave a presentation about his company's innovations. "Thank you," I began, surveying the attentive faces. "Today I want to talk about innovation, ownership, and the importance of properly valuing intellectual contributions, regardless of where they come from." My presentation detailed the technical aspects of my algorithm, but also touched on the broader issues of recognition and respect in the technology sector. Without directly mentioning Tech Vantage, I emphasized the importance of companies protecting their innovators rather than seeing them as replaceable resources. Afterward, during the reception, several young women engineers approached me seeking advice and mentorship. One of them, barely 30, confided, "Your story changed how I document my work. I started keeping detailed logs of my development process on personal time." "Smart," I replied. "Your innovations deserve protection." As the evening concluded, I checked my phone to find an industry news alert. Tech Vantage had finally announced the licensing agreement with Precision Systems, acknowledging me by name as the algorithm's creator. Their stock had stabilized, though at a significantly lower valuation than before my departure. 1 year to the day after being told to clean out my desk, I sat in my spacious office at Precision Systems, reviewing the quarterly innovation report. Under my leadership, the company had released 3 groundbreaking products built on my algorithm, capturing significant market share from Tech Vantage and other competitors. A knock at my door interrupted my analysis. It was Greg, holding a bottle of champagne and 2 glasses. "Happy anniversary," he said, setting the glasses on my desk. "The board asked me to share the news with you personally before the public announcement. Precision Systems has officially surpassed Tech Vantage in market valuation for the first time in company history." I smiled, feeling not triumph but a quiet satisfaction. That's what happens when you value innovation properly. As Greg poured the champagne, my assistant delivered a sleek envelope. Inside was an invitation to speak at Women in Technology's annual leadership summit. The topic, Owning Your Intellectual Value: How Proper Documentation Changed an Industry. "You've become something of an icon, you know," Greg commented, noticing the invitation. The story about the executive who didn't recognize what she had until it was gone has become a cautionary tale in corporate boardrooms. Richard Donovan, who had remained as Tech Vantage's CEO after the crisis, had implemented sweeping changes in how the company recognized and rewarded innovation. Their new policies on intellectual property protection and inventor recognition were reportedly modeled after the program I had established at Precision Systems. It was never about revenge, I said, raising my glass in a toast. It was about recognition. About showing the industry that innovation isn't anonymous. It comes from real people who deserve real credit. To proper recognition, Greg agreed, clinking his glass against mine. As the afternoon sun streamed through my office windows, I reflected on my journey. At 56, I had finally found what had eluded me throughout my career. Not just success but acknowledgement. My name was now permanently attached to the algorithm that had changed an industry, exactly where it belonged.